The folks down at Disney, they have plans for your children. They have Pirates of Caribbean. They have Pixie Hollow coming, and as they get, oh yes, with little Tinkerbells, and you can have your own little pixie avatar, and it's coming soon to a computer near you. But they really want to chart the course so that your children are Disney users, Disney World users, Disney Online users, Disney property users all their lives. How do you feel about that?
I think if they're building good products, that's great. I mean, these guys have either it's a disadvantage or an advantage that they're in a big geek family, right? So they're only going to be able to use sites that we think are cool or well designed and easy to use. So if they're building great products, then that's fine with me.
We are pursuing a strategy of developing a large number of virtual worlds for a range of different audiences. Kid and family focused primarily, but within that, sort of like a theme park. So if you think about a theme park, there are rides for younger kids, there are rides that are maybe skew girl or boy. There are also things that are edgier for older kids. So we want to have a sort of a spectrum of things. We want them to all feel like a common experience and have it be possible to move between these experiences kind of in a smooth way. What that means more specifically is if you've got a buddy list in one of our games, it'd be nice if that went with you to another game, for example. So you're not playing the same character in each game because the worlds are different, but some important social things go along with you. We think that makes the experience more fulfilling and also allows families to play games together, or sometimes an older sibling might be in one game and the younger sibling in another, but they can still communicate and so on.
And to a, 4-year-old girl, Disney may mean princess and all the princesses from Disney classic movies. But to a 14-year-old boy, it may mean Pirates of the Caribbean Online. So having a property like Club Penguin that appeals broadly to boys and girls around the world helps build the audience for, that's part of the broad Disney audience and Disney family, and then an opportunity to introduce those kids as they get older to properties and worlds that may be more interesting to them as they age up. So obviously part of what we're working on is the ability to introduce kids to other things that we have going on at Disney across all these various worlds.
Yeah, I like to think of them as almost like the marriage of what we've seen in the last, 3 or 4 years in social networking with what we've seen over probably a longer period of time in video gaming. So it's a bit game and it's a bit social network, all in kind of a new experience, these virtual worlds, this social experience.
Toontown is where all the Toons live, Mickey and some of the characters that you know and love from the Disney Pantheon, as well as millions of these other Toons that are just inhabitants of Toontown. And Toontown is being attacked by the Cogs, which are a group of sort of unscrupulous robots that are taking over Toontown and turning it into a sort of a gray office park, if you will. See, we can watch as bystanders, so this helps us understand how to play the game, and we can kind of yell encouragement. A big part of this game is sort of communication. So in addition to speed chat, we have emotes. You can wave and frown and give a big smile, like a big Toonie smile that's oversized. Things like that. They're all part of the communication and sort of the bonding that happens between players. So let's talk about our other products. So we have Pirates of the Caribbean Online, which we just launched.
And that's for ages?
That's really targeted at young teenagers, primarily. It's 10 and up. So if you're getting a little old for Toontown, you might enjoy Pirates. It's got a lot of things that are similar. We still have safe communication and so on, but it's a more action-based game. It goes a little older. It's obviously based on the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. So, and we just launched that last November, so we're still growing the audience. We're finding out who we've actually got, but it seems like a pretty diverse audience as well in terms of age and gameplay style.
How do you think things like social networks for kids from 4, you're 4? 5? 6 to 10. How do you think it affects their lives?
Well, it's not, I think they keep it pretty well in perspective. I mean, they don't do it too much. They do all their homework and all their other activities before they can get on the computer at all. But I think it's good for them if they're within boundaries that you can set for them so their privacy is not compromised and they know the rules of how to play. If earlier they learn those things, I think the better, because they're going to be exposed to it anyway. And I'd rather they learn about how to behave on the internet.
I think that we've got kids who are learning collaboration skills, they're learning communication skills, they're learning social skills. And in fact, these environments are socializing environments. So they're very much, I think they're very much like the influence that putting a kid in a playground has. Is it a good thing to take a kid who's 5 or 6 years old and put them in a playground environment and have them sit in a sandbox and make things with other kids? I think I think it is good. And I think what this is a very similar kind of experience, but the interface is different. Obviously, these are kids who could be either around the corner or across the globe, because they're interconnected, through the internet, and they are interacting and communicating in the context of a story. So I think they're really strong and can be really valuable social experiences. I think they are the precursors to a wide range of social media experiences that the whole world is experiencing. So at some point, these kids will grow up, and these kids will find their way into whatever is the social networking, more adult-oriented social networking experiences that are going to be available to them when they're grown up. And these precursor experiences are kind of socializing them into that as well.
The way we look at it, and the way we've looked at it at Disney, is creating social media and creating community around context has a lot of value to it from a consumer perspective and from a business perspective. From a consumer perspective, the context does many things. One, if you enter any kind of social media experience or community experience on the web where there's a clear reason, or a clear theme to it, like Pirates of the Caribbean Online, or even ESPN Fantasy Football, everybody who's there is there for the same reason, right? They're a fan of pirates, or they want to play pirate, they want to be a pirate, and they want to live in that world, in that environment. Or fantasy football on ESPN, you're a football fan and you want to engage with other fans and talk about what you're doing. So there's a reason they're all there, which means that is really a community, meaning they're sharing the same commonalities. If you look on some of the broad social media platforms, the community there, in my mind, is limited to how many friends you have in your friends list. Beyond that, there's no other reason that you're there other than to communicate with those friends. And generally speaking, it's a pretty small number. So really, those platforms are, in essence, an aggregation of these micro communities that are all there for different reasons. And it's very hard to understand the context for the business model. So if it's advertising, I'm an advertiser, why would I advertise here? I don't even know why these people are here. Whereas if there's a context, it creates a real reason for consumers and people to come together and aggregate around a common theme. The other thing that does from a community perspective is, because everybody's there for the same reason, they're going to all engage in a very similar way, right? There's not the kind of random behavior or the kind of inappropriate behavior that would go on in open platforms because, hey, we're all here for one reason. And that kind of behavior doesn't fit into the reason that we're all here. So it becomes a self-policing community environment and social experience around a shared interest. So the community then can feed on itself, and people talk about it, get their friends involved, and build on the community. And from a business perspective, that's how these things become a viral opportunity. Club Penguin's a great example of that.
My igloo is the two-story candy igloo, and I have 2 puffles.
Now, did you design that igloo?
Well, you can buy the stuff that's in it, and then this is one of my friends. You can click on them and then see what they look like, and that's, boop, there it is. And there's lots of friends. No, go to my house. And here I can go to his house if I click off that, and then I click here and I can send him a note from here. Like, I'm gonna send him this one, and then I can send him notes, and that costs you 5 coins if you send a note.
This is a codger's observation, but a lot of the characters that I saw in the demos a few minutes ago are characters I knew as a kid. The difference is that I didn't become part of the game. I didn't engage in it. I sat passively and watched it. What do you think the impact is on a kid who is now part of the fantasy?
Well, to me, it's amazing. One of the things I describe a lot is when we talk about Pirates of the Caribbean Online, a virtual world we launched earlier in the year, I feel Pirates is or was a virtual world the day the first movie came out. And we of a generation are used to a virtual world that we get to look at through a window, a movie screen. It's a world. I mean, there was a world of Jack Sparrow and all the characters from the film and Tortuga and the whole place that was Pirates of the Caribbean. And our participation was limited as film audiences to watch it. What I think is amazing about these virtual worlds is this next generation of kids are experiencing stories in a way where they can participate. They can actually enter the story. So I think it's really exciting. I think kids feel like they are both receiving a story in the traditional sense, but they're also influencing a story in a new sense because they're becoming part of it. And so their participation, in effect, is writing new aspects to the story. It's a living body of work almost when you think of it.
Do you think as they grow up, meeting people and talking to people on the internet is going to impact them? Will they be different than you or I were when this stuff didn't exist when we were kids?
I think they probably will be. I think now it's a more natural progression. If you have interests, then you do research and you look at them online. And invariably, sites now have either forum systems or full-blown social networks where you can then either collaborate or meet other people with those interests. So I think as they get older and the rules are loosened up a little bit for them, they'll be able to do more of that. Like pen pals. Sure.
Like he has.
Yeah.
Well, I think that again, I think like I said before, social media is additive. So I think the idea that there's community experiences around affinity for fantasy things or story-driven things is not new. I could take kids from around the world tomorrow who love a particular movie or particular Harry Potter. Kids love Harry Potter. They could be an affinity group. So I think it's a natural thing. Kids wanting to talk and communicate and collaborate around something. I think what's great about these experiences is it's enabling it in a much more efficient and sort of active way. And I think ultimately it's going to be good. I think the idea that kids can talk to each other from around the globe and that they're not confronting barriers that might be made up, barriers around culture or nationality. I think this is all good. It's kids working together and playing together.
I think the opportunity culturally is for kids in North America, U.S., Canada, kids who speak English only in the UK and Australia, North America, to be able to understand and interact with, and not in a aggressive and overt way. I mean, it is a fantasy environment, but to introduce elements into that fantasy environment that might resonate with somebody in Dubai because, oh, that's culturally relevant to them being in Dubai, but it's something now somebody who lives in North America can get exposed to and understand. And Club Penguin, if you've spent a lot of time there, you see that parties are thrown regularly for a whole bunch of reasons and occasions. And
for any reason whatsoever, from what I can make.
Exactly. And in fact, as Lane...
It's sort of like L.A. that way.
Yeah, and as Lane Merrifield, who oversees and operates Club Penguin, said recently, you know, everybody loves a party for whatever reason. And introducing reasons that come from other cultures, simply introduce other cultures to kids in different markets. That's a great thing.